I just want to say, Charlie Hunnam is freaking ripped in this movie. Have I got your attention? Good. King Arthur, Legend of the Sword, is the latest directorial effort from Guy Ritchie, known for the Sherlock Holmes films, Snatch, and The Man from U.N.C.L.E., and acts as sort of a new retelling of King Arthur's origin story. Now, the King Arthur story has obviously been done to death. We've seen it many times with the 2004 King Arthur film, which tried to be a bit more grounded and took away any sort of magic, but kind of ended up being a big mess. We had the 80s Excalibur movie and the Sword in the Stone cartoon. So, I mean, the King Arthur story has been retold and retold for generations. We've seen it done to death. But this time we kind of get the Guy Ritchie style and energy put into King Arthur's legend. Sort of the Ritchieisms as they've kind of been coined. So this time we kind of get a little bit of a different angle and a different take on the story. Now, I had pretty low expectations for the film. I didn't like any of the trailers. None of them really did much for me. I didn't really get much out of them. They didn't really hype me up or anything. I wasn't really looking forward to the film. But I have to say, I really did enjoy it a whole lot more than I thought it would. Now, does it have problems? Absolutely. But for what they are, I have to say, from having absolutely no expectations, or pretty low expectations for the movie, and enjoying it as much as I did, I have to give props where props is due. We get to see a bit more of sort of a rags to riches story for King Arthur. I mean, I'll be completely blunt and honest up front. I mean, the story here is basically Hamlet. I mean, if you're gonna copy someone, if you're gonna draw from someone, might as well draw from Shakespeare's, one of the masterminds of plot structure and storytelling. So, and I mean, the best Hamlet retelling around is probably still The Lion King. So, take that for what it is. But the story here kind of reveals the forging of Excalibur and its connection to King Arthur and the Pendragon lineage. So they kind of connect the two in a whole new way. And I have to say, this film really goes for the magic elements of the King Arthur legend. Like, this isn't trying to be realistic or grounded or anything like that. Like, they go full-blown magic with this. You've got giant freaking elephants and spells and fire body underwater and magic swords and everything. I mean, you've got mages. It's kind of what people come to have expected from the King Arthur story, and it doesn't really make sense to try and make the King Arthur story sort of realistic, because you've got Merlin. Like, there's so many elements to the story that people know that are sort of based in magic, so trying to ground it kind of doesn't make sense. But for the most part, the story succeeds where it has to. But after a very visually stunning but kind of dull and choppy opening, you sort of get thrown straight into sort of the Ritchieisms that fans of Guy Ritchie's work have come to expect. And that's where it starts to kind of feel like you're watching Snatch, but set during these Arthurian times, which is really fun. You get a really nice montage of Arthur kind of growing up, done to a really great beat, and you get a lot of energy, and it sort of makes that transformation and upbringing a lot more interesting than if it was done a bit more of a traditional way. And I mean, the Ritchieisms here, the montages, the quick dialogue and sort of witty, charming banter that you get between everyone is actually really funny. I mean, this film is a lot funnier than I was kind of expecting when I walked in. A lot of that banter is just really fun to watch between the different characters. Probably the most Guy Ritchie film you've seen in a long time. But the issue is more the meshing of the Guy Ritchie tone with sort of some more traditional high fantasy style storytelling, where you get sort of the grander, more epic style of storytelling sort of meshing with Guy Ritchie's style. And it works every now and then, but there are times it really doesn't. And it definitely falters in the second act, where the editing is kind of all over the place. It's very choppy. And I know it's Guy Ritchie's style to sort of have characters discussing plot points that have happened in the past and cutting these scenes sort of together, but the way it's done in the second act, you don't always get that same beat and energy to the characters discussing these plot points, and it's kind of feels more like you had all these scenes that were supposed to be in the film, and they've been really crammed together and trying to get the quickest way to tell all these plot points in the shortest amount of time. And it really comes across that way. It really feels like a lot of scenes have just been crammed together and they're not really flowing properly, or they're not being allowed enough room to breathe, which is really kind of frustrating, because there'll be a lot of scenes where you're really getting into what's going on the screen, and then they cut back and you're like, oh no, I just wanted a little bit more. So it's disappointing in that sense, where it's just the editing just doesn't keep up with what the story needs in order to be more fleshed out. And believe me, it's not the Guy Ritchie style. The scenes that have more of that Guy Ritchie element to them work really well. It's when they don't fully commit to the Guy Ritchie style where the movie kind of falters and you get scenes that just don't quite gel or mesh together properly. Because a lot of times it feels very much like they're just telling plot points to us rather than showing us. So there are a number of times where, say, a character would show up in a scene, but you know that character isn't quite with them yet, and then they'll cut back to how they got that character to join the group, and it's sort of a bit jumbled around, and it's not to do with the Guy Ritchie style, it's just the way the film's being cut. It doesn't mesh together very well. But, I mean, the film really picks up a lot more after Arthur gets Excalibur, and the movie actually becomes really fascinating. It becomes really quite exciting. As I said, Charlie Hunnam is in the film as King Arthur, and he's pretty decent here. He's not the greatest actor in the world. I mean, he wasn't great in Pacific Rim, but here he's actually not too bad. He's quite likable as King Arthur. He's perfectly fine. Eric Bana is in the film. I mean, I haven't seen Eric Bana in years, but he's in the film, playing King Arthur's father. While you have talents like Jimon Hounsou and Aidan Gillen, who with a number of other actors sort of exist as kind of the Knights of the Round Table, and they sort of build up to being the Knights of the Round Table throughout the film. And Aidan Gillen's kind of doing the little finger thing here, but I mean, he's still fun to watch in this film. But honestly, the letdown is Jude Law as the villain Vortigern, who is the King of England for most of the film, and he's just really over the top for most of the film. I mean, he does these little evil glances every now and then, so as if you forget he is evil, he'll sort of turn around and you go, oh, okay, great, now I know he's evil. Thanks, Jude Law. And so there are times just where he can be really hammy, and it just sort of burdens the whole experience when everyone else is on top of things. The film has a kind of Merlin, who's pretty cool for the most part. I mean, the scenes that this version of Merlin that they're kind of doing is really interesting, and it sort of gives you a bit more of a new spin on that character. And the effects used to display the magic that's used in the film is actually really incredible and really fascinating to watch. But watching them on the quest, going on the quest to sort of take down Jude Law's character is actually really quite fun, and you get to sort of see them form as a team and get to know each other, and you get the banter between them. But you know, unfortunately, a lot of their scenes do get crammed together, so you kind of miss a bit of that, but you still kind of feel a little bit compelled to keep going with them because they're a great cast and they're fun to watch. I mean, really, if any film ever needed a director's cut or an extended edition, this film really needs it. I mean, the running time of this film is 126 minutes. I bet you they've got a director's cut ready with an extra 30-40 minutes because, I mean, honestly, if they had a 3-hour director's cut, I'd give it a shot, because if scenes could sort of be moved around and reorganized and fleshed out a bit more, I'd give it a shot, because there's a lot to love here if you're a fan of sort of high fantasy stories. And the in-camera action is actually really quite exhilarating. The action scenes that are all done sort of in-camera are quite fun and exciting to watch, where you get to sort of see the sword play between the stunt guys and a lot of parkour and fun chases that are used. And when they're done in camera, they're really quite fun to watch. But unfortunately, the Excalibur scenes overuse CGI way too much, and that's a bit of a dampener when your movie is called Legend of the Sword. Excalibur that's what you're selling, that's what you're trying to get people to come to the theater for, and the CGI is just way overused. It just kills so much of the momentum. I know a lot of the CGI is meant to be used to make Excalibur look like this incredibly powerful force, but so many sequences make it look like a video game. It's like watching someone play The Witcher 3 or Skyrim. I mean, at times there are some really breathtaking, incredible CGI moments, but the scenes with Excalibur really let down the rest of the film, because you can just see that it's clearly CGI and it's just overbearing, and you just lose everything else. And I mean, there's no other way to describe it. It looks like a video game cutscene when you're watching Arthur use Excalibur, which is really disappointing. But look, overall, I liked it a lot more than I thought. I wasn't going into it with much expectations. The final fight is a little bit underwhelming. It is a little bit short. I feel like maybe there needs to be a bit more interaction between King Arthur and Vortigern, but I think mainly it comes from Jude Law's performance and the way his character's kind of been written, because King Arthur's kind of fine throughout the film, but it's The final fight is just over a bit too quickly, and you just honestly want to see more in camera of the two fighting. But again, the CGI, everything kind of gets lost in a swarm of CGI, which kind of kills the image. But look, this movie is worth giving a shot if you like high fantasy. It's a better King Arthur film than we've had in the past. I mean, I've never really been a huge fan of the King Arthur myth or legend, so I know there are people that really do enjoy it. A lot of people like the show Merlin, so people who watch that probably get a bit of a kick out of this film. But I'll definitely give this film a shot. If a director's cut is released on Blu-ray, I'll definitely be checking that out. Just really hope they reshuffle some scenes in the second act, give some scenes a bit more room to breathe, so we can spend a bit more time getting to learn about some of the characters and meeting some of the characters, and some more time developing their quest to challenge Vortigern. And I mean, the film sets up a sequel, but I mean, it's pretty unlikely. This film isn't looking too good at the box office. I saw this film opening night and the theater was pretty dead, and that's on an opening night. That's not good at all, so that's worrying. Honestly, wouldn't be surprised if this film severely underperforms and loses money for Warner Brothers. The trailers can kind of blame for that. There wasn't really much hype for the film, and from what I've heard, they were planning 6 films in a series, which I think is pretty unlikely. But look, enjoy the movie for what it is. It's not the best high fantasy film you've ever seen. It's not quite as epic as other films like Lord of the Rings, but it's certainly above and beyond the steaming pile of crap that Warcraft was. So there's enjoyment to definitely be had here, especially if you're a fan of Guy Ritchie. I think Guy Ritchie fans are going to get a lot more out of it than other people, but honestly, film was a lot better than expected. Give it a shot if you're into the King Arthur mythology, if you like that legend, or if you like Guy Ritchie. So worth giving it a shot, absolutely. For everyone else, I think maybe wait until it is on Blu-ray. If a director's cut is released that is a lot longer with scenes fleshed out, I'd say give it a shot. I'd be really interested to see how that turns out. So I hope Warner Brothers are planning that. They've done it before with their films before. I feel like this may be a case like with Ridley Scott's Kingdom of Heaven, where the director's cut really fixed a lot of the problems that the theatrical version had. So if Warner Brothers releases a director's cut, I think you might see a similar situation here. So for my final score, the King Arthur Legend of the Sword, I'm giving the film a 6.5 out of 10. A lot better than I thought it was going to be. Had very low expectations, but worth giving it a shot if you like the King Arthur mythology. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. I always appreciate you guys coming to these videos. If you like this video, do hit the thumbs up button. Leave a comment down below in the comments section. Are you planning to see this new King Arthur film? If not, let me know in the comment section either way. And don't forget, you can hit the subscribe button if you want to see more content. And also don't forget, you can follow the Mono Report on Facebook and Twitter at the Mono Report. Thank you again so much, guys. Don't forget, you can stay right here for your Mono Fix. Bye, guys.